Hey y'all, in today's video, I'm gonna show you how I do my foundation and contour. But before we do, you know what I'm gonna ask. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, so I can quit my daytime job and do what? Be snatched full time. Note that I'm gonna be putting all the products that I use today in the description below. So first things first, you always wanna make sure that your skin is moisturized. I use Cerave moisturizers. You can use any moisturizer that works for you. Next step is I go ahead and use a primer. Now for my foundation, I use ALL Fenty products. I'm gonna be using the Fenty Beauty True Matte Pro Filter Mattifying Primer. And the way I like to apply it is I just squeeze a few drops to my fingertips, and then I focus on the areas that I feel are a little bit drier. My skin, of course I put it everywhere, but I really focus it in the areas that I feel need a little bit more help. And for those areas, I just tap it in instead of wiping it away, since you want to kind of concentrate it there. Since I am bald, I put some primer on my head as well, my neck, my back, just kidding. Now that we've got our primer on, I'm gonna move on to foundation. And for foundation, I use the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Soft Matte Longwear Foundation in the shade 150. And I use this big ass sponge from RealTechniques, which you can get online, you can get at Target, but this is my favorite sponge. It is so massive, y'all. It gets all the areas. I love it. So what I do is I actually go ahead and apply the product to the sponge itself, and then I start applying that to my face. And what I'll do is I put one pump on the sponge and then do one side of my face. I get pretty much every area except for under my eyes, which I avoid because I don't want to pile too much product on, and that's where I'm going to be putting on the concealer. You really want to get into those crevices right in this little area right here. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. It's a little bit tricky when you have a beard. We kind of learn how to blend the foundation into the beard so it doesn't look funny. The way I do that is after I've applied all of the foundation to my face, I go ahead and take whatever's left on the sponge and I lightly tap to create somewhat of a gradient. After I finish my face, I'm going to go ahead and put foundation on my entire head. And then I go ahead and take another pump and build on top of that. After I'm done with my head, I'm gonna go ahead and do another pump and put foundation on my neck. You wanna make sure to work that foundation up behind your ear. And then you're gonna take whatever's left on the sponge and you're gonna go ahead and make sure that you have some foundation on your ears. People forget that part, but it is still part of your head. Now that we've got our foundation on, we are gonna move on to concealer. For concealer, I'm using the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Instant Retouch Concealer in the shade 105. I actually go ahead and start with my underbags. I'll just put some in this inner corner area as well as the outer corner, and I just flip the wand and I do the same on the other side. I don't put a lot of concealer on because it does create texture for me, so I go ahead and put on as little as realistically possible because I'm still trying to conceal, y'all. All these years of tears, bad choices in men. That's a story for another day, y'all. I'm using this smaller sponge from RealTechniques and I am blending out the concealer. I am dragging the concealer down and then upward. I like to drag the concealer a little bit into my brow bone. All right, now that we've taken care of these underbags, we're gonna move on to our nose. I take that same concealer and I just do a little crown right here. That's what I like to call it, my crown. And then I drag the concealer down my nose. Not all the way down, just a little bit over the natural tip of your nose. And then we go ahead and blend this out. I don't want to blend out the concealer too far out because what I'm trying to do is create an illusion of a smaller forehead. And then I'll go down my nose with the smaller side of the sponge. Now that we've got our concealer on and we've highlighted our nose and under our eyes, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the actual contour part. I'm gonna go ahead and use the Fenty Beauty Match Stix in the shade Truffle. I'm gonna use a Sigma angled kabuki brush. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of the product with my brush. And then I like to tap my brush on my wrist to go ahead and get some of the product off. And then we'll go ahead and start contouring. and then I blend that upward, and then I start building that contour towards the center of my forehead. And I make sure that it is all just really blended out. After I've done my contour around my face, I go ahead and contour my jaw. I'm gonna apply that right on my jawline, making sure I blend outward and upward, creating a blend up toward my ear. I'm going to blend that upward as well. And I know it's hard to tell because with a beard, you kind of have a natural contour. Now we're gonna move on to my favorite part of contouring, which is contouring my nose. I'm gonna go ahead and use the same exact matchstick to contour my nose. We'll go ahead and grab some product on a Sigma Precision Angled brush. I'll make sure that that is blended into the brush well by tapping it on my wrist. What I like to do is I like to start from this area right here, and then I start contouring my nose by building a line toward the middle of my nose all the way down. Then I'll go ahead and do the same on the other side. And I like to go ahead and contour the bottom of my nostrils here, so you gotta make sure to get in there. It is all part of the illusion, y'all. Then I like to just go ahead and wipe my brush off a little bit on some paper towel, just so that it's a little bit cleaner, and I go ahead and use that same brush to really make sure that this is all nice and blended out. You don't want to blend too far out into your face, otherwise you're going to mess up the concealer that you put on earlier. Okay, and now that we've blended that out, there's one final detail that I like to do to my nose contour that I feel adds a nice touch, and it's actually something that I learned from JLo's makeup artist Scott Barnes. Add a little bit of a line right across the nose, and then we'll go ahead and blend that out. What that does is it creates that little cute button nose look. You could contour your nose with or without that, but I feel like it adds a cute little extra something. Up to you, but I think it's cute. It looks really good when you finish your whole look and slap on that highlighter. It is a vibe, y'all. Now that we have our foundation and our contour on, we're gonna move on to setting powder. There's a lot of controversy out there about how people set their face and how much powder they use. I'm here to tell you that you can do whatever the you want. Anyway, for setting powder, I'm gonna go ahead and use the Fenty Beauty Pro Filt'r Lavender setting powder. I really love this one because it is very brightening. Because I do have some lines on my forehead, I do like to take that same sponge that I use for the concealer, and I go ahead and I just make sure that the product is really packed into the lines on my forehead so that when I put the setting powder, it stays in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and dip into the setting powder with my RealTechniques sponge that's a little bit velvety on the outside. It is a really good sponge to grab setting powder with. So I go ahead and I dip into that setting powder, and then I start with the area that I just pressed in. And I want to make sure to kind of lightly press the powder on this area. And I'm going to do the same under my eyes. And I'm essentially putting setting powder everywhere that we put concealer. Once I have this powder on, I go ahead and I use my all over powder brush by ITCosmetics, and I dip it just a little bit into the setting powder to get a little bit on the brush. And then I go ahead and I wipe away the powder. At the same time, the powder that's coming loose is setting the rest of the foundation. And that is it, y'all. That is how I put on my foundation and contour. I hope I was able to teach y'all something today. Let me know if you like these more basic tutorial videos. These are all things that I've learned from watching other YouTube videos, other influencers, and I'm gonna continue to evolve. But for now, this is how it goes. Thank you so much for watching me, and don't forget, we're all just trying. So be nice.